Friends, hello and welcome on TechGuruSpeaks.com. Today I would like to talk about Java method overriding, which is an example of runtime polymorphism in Java. Method overriding in Java is achieved when a subclass provides the specific implementation of an instance method already defined in the superclass. The method in the superclass is called overridden method and the method in the subclass is called overriding method. There must be an easier relationship, that means inheritance relationship, between the overridden method and the overriding method. The new method definition must have the same method name and the same parameter list. There might be a little bit variation of this rule, which is basically applicable for covariant return type, which will be demonstrated a little bit later. Method overriding is basically an example of runtime polymorphism, which is also known as dynamic binding, because the method to be invoked is determined at the runtime only. When a superclass object reference points to the subclass object, then the call to the overridden method is to be determined at runtime. This procedure is known as dynamic method dispatch. So that is the theoretical background of the Java method overriding concept. Now I'll be moving to the demonstration part, which will be done by using the NetBeans IDE, which is one of the most popular IDEs for Java programming. So let's move to the demonstration part using the NetBeans IDE. So it is the Java AC project that I created in the earlier tutorial. So now I'll be trying to create a class that will be used for demonstrating the overriding method overriding. So first I will remove the unnecessary lines. Say first I will be creating a class, say for example it is named animal and it is having a method. So animal is basically the superclass. Now I have to consider another class, say named dog, which extends animal, and which is basically overriding the method named eat, like void eat. So it will be having same name, same parameter list, though it is not having any parameter. So it is basically dog specific eating. So it has, that means I mean to say the subclass has tried to provide a specific implementation of this method by means of method overriding. So it is basically the overridden method and it is the overriding method. So there is a superclass subclass relationship between animal and dog, because dog is a subclass of superclass animal. So it is denoting an easier relationship, and both of them are basically instance methods. So now I will be having the main method within the main class known as override test. So first I will be creating an reference of the animal class and it will be pointing towards the object of the animal class. So by using this object reference I can call the method named eat. Similarly I can create an object for the class named dog. So using the similar technique I can create an object, and now by using the object reference I can call this method named eat. So just have a look at the program output here. So first I have created an object of the animal class, and by using this object reference of the superclass named animal I have tried to call its method. So that is why it will be printing animal specific eating. Now for the next statement, I have tried to create here an object of the dog class, and by using this object reference I will be now trying to make a call to the eat method, but here I will be calling the subclasses version of method because the method in the superclass has been overwritten here. So by using this particular object reference, which will be now pointing towards the object of the subclass named dog, we will be calling this particular version of method only. So that is the reason behind that kind of output being generated. So it is a very simple example that we will be demonstrating method overriding. Now I would like to give you a little bit complicated example. So that will be giving you the idea of dynamic method dispatch also. So just remove the lines because I will give you some new example. Say class super. It is the name of the class within which I have got a single instance field named X. So it is basically member of super. So I will be adding the constructor here. It is basically the constructor of the super class. Now I will be creating here a method, say void show, which will basically display the value of this instance field. At the same time, it will mention from which method, which is basically part of a particular class, will be mentioned here. So it is the structure of the super class. It is having only one instance field. It is the constructor, it is the method. Now following the same structure, I will be creating a subclass here. So it is named sub. Now it is having a new instance variable, that is y. So I will have x and y both. Just I am modifying the program. So super x. So in that way, this particular superclass constructor will be get called, that we have already seen in the earlier examples. So here I will be trying to print the value of x and y both, because by using the inheritance property, the instance field of superclass super will be made available to the subclass named sub. So that is why we can access it from the subclass. So it is basically the subclass. So I would also like to mention here from which particular class this particular method is coming, because the method has been overridden here. Clear? So it is the overridden method and it is the overriding method. So the method named show has been overridden in its subclass. So now I will be trying to create a reference, say super ob equal to so suppose I am providing you the value 10. So that will be the value of x here. So if I am writing here ob dot show, so certainly it will be calling this one. Clear? Just try to show you the output. So that's true, whatever I have said just now. That means by using the superclass reference, I have tried to point towards the object of the class named super. So by using this reference, now I can point to the overridden method in the, which is a part of the basically superclass named super. Now I'll be using the same reference named OB to point towards an object of the subclass. So now I will be giving you the example of dynamic method dispatch. So here we have used the superclass reference, that means the superclass object reference, to point to the objects of the subclass which is known as SUB. So it is matched here. Okay, so if I am now calling the method named show, which particular version of method, like whether the superclasses version of show method or the subclasses version of show method will be get called, that will be decided at runtime only, since this superclass reference is now pointing towards the subclass object, which is basically a particular case of upcasting, that means implicit casting with respect to reference type. So in that sense, because every sub is a super, it's a, the idea of using is a relationship. So now by using this particular superclass reference, if I am pointing towards the object of the subclass, though I am using the superclass reference, still it will be calling the subclasses version of method. So which particular version of method will be get called, whether it is to be called the superclasses version of show method or the subclasses version of show method, will be decided at runtime based on the object that the reference will be pointing towards. Just have a look at it. So now you can get that in the earlier example, like for this particular statement, it will be now pointing towards basically superclass object. So if I am calling this method, this particular superclasses version of method will be get called. Now after this method call, I have initialized this object reference of the superclass of object reference, basically has been initialized with the value subclass object. So that is the constructor of the subclass. So now if I am calling this show method by using this particular superclass object reference, instead of calling its own method, it will be calling the subclasses version of method, because this method has been overridden here in the subclass. So by using this particular concept, we can say demonstrate that the which particular version of method will be get called, it will be decided at the runtime. So by using superclass reference, I will be pointing towards the object of the subclass, and then by using this object reference, I will be calling the subclasses version of method. So this is basically I mean to say this procedure is basically known as dynamic method dispatch. So I hope that you have understood the logic behind this particular approach. Now I would like to give you a particular case. It is basically a special case. Normally here you can see it like both of them will have the same name, though there is no parameter list, but according to theory they will have same name and same parameter list, but with respect to return type generally they are same. But if you are trying to consider say reference type, so there might be a scenario like the subclass return type might be same as that of the class that it is pointing in the superclass, or it might be its subtype. So for object reference type as a return type, here I can point to the same kind of class, though it is actually showing void here, but instead of void, if I am using a class here, so in the overriding method, I mean to say in the subclass, the class, that means the class basically for which the kind of object reference is to be returned will be same or maybe its subtype. So it is called covariant return type. Just have a look at the example. Suppose I have got two classes, say class A and class B, and they are having superclass subclass relationship because I have got the extends keyword. So now I'll create another set of classes which will be having superclass subclass relationship. So within X, say for example, I have got a method named, say for example, DISP. That means it will be used for display purpose. So I'll be just writing here superclass method. So and finally I'll be returning something here. Say return new A. Now its subclass will be created. Say it's named Y. So Y extends X. So here you can see it. We can either write here the same class like in the overridden method and the overriding method. The return type might be the same or it might point towards the subtype. So this is basically called covariant return type. Like I have already specified, the method name and the return type, sorry, the method name and the parameter list will be same, and normally the return type will be same. If they are not same, the return type, if I am to consider object reference, must be a subtype of the class that has been mentioned in the overridden method. So in the overriding method, the return type of the overriding method must be same, like I can write here A, that means they are same, or it can mention its subtype because B is basically a subclass of A. So this particular concept is called covariant return type. Remember it. So this is the example of covariant return type. So now I will be trying to create the objects, respective objects. Say X OB equal to new X, because I need to create objects as both of them are basically instance methods. So without using object I won't be able to access them. So that is why I need to create the respective objects. Now I'll be trying to create the objects of the subclass named Y. So just have a look at the output here. So just you are getting the output accordingly. Like for this particular reference, it is pointing towards the object of the superclass. So in that way, the superclass's version of method will be get called. Now for the second code statement, like following the call of the DISP method, it is trying to create an object of the subclass. So by using this object reference, if I am calling the DISP method, it will be calling the subclasses version of covariant return type kind of method. So that is the idea of using covariant return type. So I hope that you have understood the logic behind this kind of program. So it is basically a special case of method overriding. So try to remember that for method overriding to occur, the method name and the method parameter list must be the same, but for the return type they may be the same. I mean to say, for object reference type, or the overriding method may be using the same class name or the subclass of the class name mentioned in the superclass. So here it happens to be A and B respectively. So that is the idea I have tried to implement here. So I hope that you have understood the logic behind the concept of method overriding, and you will be able to write your own programs based on the concept mentioned just now. So I hope that you have thoroughly watched this video and understood the concept of method overriding and covariant return type. So if you like this video, then please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So here comes the URL of my YouTube channel, and please visit my website. You will get lot of useful information here, techguruspeaks.com, and this is the email ID. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.